Welcome back, people. Von Blues Boxing for July 28th. Today on Tuesday, I got a couple of things I want to talk about. And just talk about a few things. My first topic is I'm going to talk about Oscar Valdez. And I was reading an article, shout out to Boxing Scene, via Boxing Scene. Something I thought too after the fight, his fight with Jason Velez. I believe that Oscar Valdez and Chavez Sr. said the same thing that, alluded to kind of the same thing I was thinking, that maybe Eddie Reynoso, he's a great trainer and an excellent trainer, but maybe for Oscar Valdez, maybe not maybe his style is not conducive to what Eddie Reynoso trains. And the thing is, Chavez Sr. was saying the same kind of thing that I said. You can't expect Eddie Reynoso to change every fighter that comes into his stable and try to make them fight like Canelo. You know what I'm saying? A boxer, puncher, counter punching type of style. You can't expect that. And if you look at Eddie's camp, he's got Ryan Garcia, Frankie Sanchez, the Cuban heavyweight. He's got I forgot his name. Cesar Martinez is in his camp. Luis Neri and Ryan Garcia. And a lot of those dudes are boxer punchers. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about Oscar is a pressure, come forward type of fighter. He likes to be in the inside. He likes to get his punches off in the inside and get into that mid to close distance so he can put the hurt on you. He goes to the body and head pretty well. Oscar can counter punch. He's got some pretty good counter punches and stuff like that, with his counter punching ability when he's in the inside. But I would think, in my opinion, I'm not knocking Eddie Reynoso. I'm not knocking Oscar Valdez. Those dudes they got more boxing in their pinky than I got in my brain. But the thing is with Oscar, I think Oscar, if him and Eddie don't work out, if they get to a point where they feel like, hey, we need to, Oscar feel like he needs to make a change or something like that, I think a good trainer for him would be Robert Garcia. And the reason why I say this is because Robert Garcia has done well with pressure fighters. He tends to get the best out of pressure fighters. He tends to teach them how to, put pressure on an opponent, but fight with intelligent aggression. You know what I'm saying? Teaches them how to be defensively responsible when they coming forward. You know what I'm saying? I know, I'm just everywhere with it, but, that's the type of fighting style that Robert tends to do really well with. If you look at Brandon Rios, how far he got Brandon Rios. If you look at Jose Ramirez, you look at Mikey Garcia, you look at even somebody like Marcos Maidana. You know what I'm saying? He does really well with pressure fighters. He does really well, and he teaches them how to fight with smart aggression and how to, capitalize on the skill set that they have. So I think Robert Garcia would be, if Oscar and Eddie don't work out, I think Robert could get the best out of Oscar. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what happens. But I'm going to move on from that. Oscar De La Hoya, he's been talking about possibly coming back. I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's the smart thing, especially with Oscar talking about he wants to fight the best guys at 154 or possibly 160. I don't think that's the best thing for Oscar De La Hoya to do. You know what I'm saying? At 47, Oscar hasn't fought, I think, in 12 to 13 years. It's risky and it's dangerous to do against these young fighters these 20 plus, 30 plus fighters in their prime. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, Oscar was an excellent fighter. He has one of the best resumes in boxing, win, lose, or draw in those fights. He has one of the best resumes I've ever seen in boxing. But I just don't know if he can compete. I don't believe he can, I mean, physically, maybe Oscar feels good, but, reflexes. Does he have the reflexes? Does he still have the cardio to go 10 to 12 rounds? Does he, can he take those punches off these young fighters? That's one thing I kind of question. So I don't know, and I know they're gladiators, and that's something they do. That itch never goes away, no matter how old they get, how old boxers get or combat athletes get. That itch is always there. So I understand that. I definitely understand Oscar wanting to still do that. But is it good for his health? Is it worth it? Is it worth the risk? That's something that Oscar and his people in his camp got to figure out. But I'm going to move on to the next subject. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not as excited about this because, Roy and Mike's age, them being plus 50 plus, and, just Mike has been out of the sport since 2005. Roy, I don't know how to feel about this fight, especially with I just don't know how to feel about it. It's a danger to me. It's a dangerous fight for both fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just I don't know what to say about it. I'm just kind of like I'm probably gonna still watch it. Just because Roy Jones and Mike Tyson are legends, ATGs in their weight classes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what to think about it. I understand. That itch and that fire is still there, but I just wonder. I mean, people look at like people like Bernard Hopkins. See, the thing about Bernard Hopkins, Bernard was able to fight in his 40s because he had been active through the whole time. Bernard didn't take significant time off. He wasn't retired or anything. He was just fighting and fighting and fighting. And the thing about Bernard Hopkins, it was his style. B Hop was excellent defensively. He didn't take a lot of punishment. He didn't have a lot of cuts and things of that nature. He wasn't knocked down many times. B Hop take care of his body, and it just is a difference between somebody like Bernard Hopkins or like, with it's just different, compared to Oscar or Mike or Roy, them coming back. And George Foreman was an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? Big George was an anomaly. That's once in a lifetime type of thing. You come back from being out of the ring that long and able to compete with the top level heavyweights and able to beat one at that time, Michael Moore. So it's just, and I wonder sometimes like it's just like, damn, it's more excitement about Mike Tyson and Roy Jones fighting than it is, today's boxers, you know what I'm saying, from the fan base and, from fight fans and from some of the casual boxing fans, and it's like, damn, I just wish that same kind of attention and the same kind of excitement was for today's fighters, but it is what it is. I see the positives in it, that Mike and Roy are going to bring casual eyes back to boxing and they're going to bring new people to boxing. So I guess in the long term, it helps boxing. But, that's pretty much on that. I'm not going to dig too else deep in there. Then another subject, Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin. That's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a good fight. Depending on what Dillian White shows up and what Alexander Povetkin shows up. If Alexander Povetkin, Father Time shows up on Alexander Povetkin, Dillian White Dillian White is going to win that fight. But if Dillian comes in here and, he's not in the best shape, you know what I'm saying? Or Dillian, slows down, mid to late rounds, he starts to slow down or something like that, then Povetkin can pull this fight out. But I think I'm going to go with Dillian White. I'll get more into the analysts why I think Dillian can win that when the fight gets closer. But right now I got Dillian White. I think Dillian will pull off that fight. I think he'll beat Povetkin, especially after the Michael Hunter fight. Even though Michael Hunter is a tricky dude, but last fight Povetkin, it just looked like age is starting to catch him. Father Time is starting to catch Alexander Povetkin. I think he's 41, 42 years old. So I'm gonna go with Dillian White in that fight. And yeah, but it's a good fight. It's a good fight. If Dillian gets through Povetkin, he definitely is going to get his WBC title shot. Either that be Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, whoever wins that match in the third match. And and then we'll go from there and we'll see, it'll show, it'll really help us to see how the heavyweight division is going to play out. So, yeah, that's pretty much on that. I'll definitely be watching that fight. And then I want to talk about Virgil Ortiz and his win. His win was really good. He did an excellent job against Samuel Vargas. You know what I'm saying? He did a good job. He did a really good job against Samuel Vargas. He put the pressure on Samuel. He went to the body, head. His jab was on point. Virgil showed footwork. He showed that he has footwork and he's capable. I like how he was, he would circle outside of Samuel Vargas and stuff. So Virgil showed some dimensions in that fight. He showed that he can stay behind the jab for a certain amount of time. He shows that, hey, he can box if it need be. But he did a really good job on Samuel Vargas, just going to the body, the head. That jab was what set up everything earlier on. Virgil was just catching with that jab. That jab was on point, and that started opening him up. You know, and so it was impressive. An impressive win by Samuel Vargas. He got the job. I mean, not Samuel Vargas, Virgil Ortiz. Impressive win. The kid he's an excellent fighter. You know, sky's the limits. The only knock, and I don't like really doing this, like trying to give knocks on fighters and stuff like that. The only knock I could have in that fight, Virgil did give up his height. He tends to give up his height sometimes. I mean, I kind of understand why he does that at times, is because he's trying to bait the smaller fighter into being, you know, getting off and opening himself up so Virgil can catch him with, you know, some counter punches and stuff like that. So I get that, you know, but I would like to see Virgil use his height more and his range more sometimes. And another thing is just, you know, and that's about it. That was the thing that I seen Virgil. That's the one thing that I only little, I guess, if it's a knock or not, that I seen in the fight. But his future, that's another thing I want to talk about. Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, those type of fights are not going to happen right now for Virgil Ortiz. I just don't see it happening right now for Virgil. I see Virgil taking on somebody, a fringe contender or something of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Somebody maybe in the top 15 welterweights, maybe top 20 welterweights. I don't see him getting the top 5 guy right now. He is the, I believe, number 2 or possibly number 1 WBO in WBO rankings. So that Terrence Crawford, you know, title shot is possibly there, but I don't know if Terrence is going to be really interested in fighting a guy like Virgil Ortiz right now, because I feel like Terrence has got his eyes set on trying to make that unification, I mean, that undisputed, possibly unification bout with Earl Spence. And, you know, I think that's where Terrence's main focus is at, you know, getting that fight done, seeing how Earl gets through Danny Garcia, and seeing if Earl possibly you can get the fight with Pacquiao, or Terrence can get the fight with Pacquiao. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I see them going. Keith, I don't see Keith entertaining Virgil right now. You know what I'm saying? I see Virgil, Keith fighting somebody on the PBC. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a Ugas, maybe a Udonis Ugas, maybe you know, somebody like that. That's why I see Keith Thurman fighting. Maybe a Ugas or somebody else that's in the welterweight division on there. Also, Danny Garcia is already going to be fighting Earl Spence, so that's not going to happen. And yeah. So that right now, I don't see that happening for Virgil, but I do see Virgil fighting a fringe contender, so maybe somebody in the top 20. I said Thomas Delorme. Some people would laugh at me about it, but I think it's a good fight. You know, Virgil just needs to keep having some, you know, he needs those kind of fights. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's what the thing, because Danny Garcia is ranked above him in the WBO rankings. He's first, but I don't see Danny fighting Virgil right now. That's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That's it, fella. You know, but I could be wrong. You never know. And yeah, so that's what I really wanted to talk about today. I think probably I'll come back Thursday or Friday and have some more topics and things I want to talk about. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a kind of brief talk about, you know, the topics I wanted to talk about in boxing. And I think I'll talk about the lightweight division. I think that's going to be the next topic I'm going to try to talk about, like what's going on in the lightweight division, my top 10 lightweights in the world right now. And that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And right now, I don't have Tank in the top 10 because Tank going to be fighting at 130. That's the only reason why I don't have Tank in the top 10 right now. But he is a, you know, when he comes back to 135, he'll be a top 10 lightweight. But his fight's going to be at 130. So Tank is in there, but he's not going to be, for right now, the guys that's going to be fighting at 135 and got fights coming up. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, man, I'm gone. Von Blues Boxing, baby.